The music was loud. Crystal glasses clinked. Expensive suits and sparkling dresses filled the grand ballroom. Everything looked perfect. But in the middle of all that luxury, something unexpected happened. Emily Carter, a powerful millionaire CEO known across the country, suddenly collapsed on the floor. One moment she was smiling and shaking hands with investors. The next moment, everything went dark. When Emily finally opened her eyes again, she wasn't in a hospital. She wasn't in her luxury penthouse either. Instead, she was lying on a worn leather couch inside a small mechanic's garage, and beside her sat a smiling little girl. And that moment would change Emily's life forever. Before we continue this incredible story, take a second to support the channel. If you enjoy inspiring stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from. Welcome to Your Channel Name, where real stories remind us how powerful kindness can be. Now let's continue. Emily Carter had built her empire from the ground up. At just 38 years old, she owned one of the fastest-growing tech companies in America. People admired her success. Magazines featured her on their covers. Investors trusted her with millions. But behind the fame and wealth, Emily's life had slowly become empty. Her days were filled with meetings, flights, and endless work. She rarely slept more than 4 hours a night. Her phone never stopped ringing. Friends had slowly disappeared. Family gatherings became rare. Even when she stood in rooms full of people, Emily often felt completely alone. The charity gala that night was just another event on her calendar. She had smiled politely, shaken hands, and given a short speech about innovation and leadership. But her body had been warning her for weeks. Headaches. Dizziness. Exhaustion. And then suddenly, during the middle of the party, her vision blurred. The lights above her head spun. And she collapsed. When Emily woke up again, the first thing she noticed was the smell of motor oil and metal. The second thing she noticed was the little girl sitting beside her. The girl looked about 7 years old. She had bright eyes, blonde hair tied in a ponytail, and she was wearing denim overalls. The girl smiled warmly. "Hi," she said softly. "You're awake." Emily blinked in confusion. Where am I?" "You're in my dad's garage," the girl replied proudly. Emily slowly sat up and looked around. Old tools hung on the walls. Tires were stacked in the corner. A classic white car was parked nearby with its hood open. Then a man walked in through the garage door. He looked tall and strong, wearing a simple gray t-shirt with grease stains on his hands. He gave Emily a calm smile. "Good to see you awake," he said. "You scared us for a minute there." Emily rubbed her forehead. "What happened?" "My name's Jake," the man explained. "I'm a mechanic here. I was driving home when I saw you collapse outside the event hall. Everyone inside was panicking, but the ambulance was taking too long. So I brought you here and called a doctor friend." Emily looked surprised. "You brought me here?" Jake nodded. "You fainted from exhaustion, according to the doctor. He checked you out and said you just needed rest." Emily looked down at the worn couch she had been sleeping on. For someone who lived in luxury hotels and penthouses, this place was the complete opposite. But strangely, it felt peaceful. The little girl leaned closer. "My name is Lily," she said happily. "I stayed with you so you wouldn't feel alone." Emily felt something warm in her chest. A stranger's child had sat beside her just to make sure she wasn't alone. Jake handed Emily a glass of water. "You should drink this." She took a sip. "Thank you," Emily said quietly. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Lily asked an innocent question. "Are you really rich?" Jake immediately looked embarrassed. "Lily, But Emily actually laughed softly. Yes, she admitted. I guess you could say that. Lily tilted her head. Then why did you look so sad when you were sleeping? The question caught Emily off guard. She didn't know how to answer. Jake changed the subject gently. Lily, why don't you bring her the soup your grandma sent? Okay. The little girl ran off happily. Emily watched her go. She's sweet, Emily said. Jake nodded. She's the best thing in my life. A few minutes later, Lily returned with a bowl of warm soup and a spoon. Grandma says soup fixes everything, she said proudly. Emily smiled and took the bowl. Your grandma sounds very wise. As Emily ate, she noticed something about the garage. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't modern. But it felt full of life. Pictures of Lily were taped to the wall. A small radio played soft country music. Jake worked on a car quietly while Lily sat on the floor drawing pictures with crayons. For the first time in years, Emily felt calm. After a while, she asked Jake something. Why did you help me? Jake shrugged. You needed help. Emily looked at him. But you didn't know who I was. He wiped his hands with a rag. That shouldn't matter. Those simple words stayed in Emily's mind. That shouldn't matter. Later that afternoon, Emily's assistant finally arrived after tracking her phone location. The assistant rushed into the garage in panic. Ms. Carter. We've been searching everywhere. Emily stood up slowly. I'm fine. The assistant looked shocked at the surroundings. You stayed here? Emily turned to Jake and Lily. Yes, she said softly. And I'm glad I did. Before leaving, Emily knelt down in front of Lily. Thank you for staying with me. Lily hugged her without hesitation. You're welcome. Emily then turned to Jake. I'd like to repay you for helping me. Jake shook his head immediately. No need. But Emily smiled. Kindness deserves kindness. A few weeks later, something surprising happened. Jake received a letter from Emily Carter's company. At first, he thought it was a mistake. But it wasn't. Emily had funded a full renovation for the garage. New equipment. Better tools. Even a small waiting area for customers. But that wasn't all. She also donated money to build a new community center in the neighborhood. And she named it Lily's Place. The center provided free tutoring, meals for families, and safe activities for kids. When reporters later asked Emily why she did it, she told them a simple story. She told them about a mechanic who helped a stranger without asking who she was. She told them about a little girl who sat beside someone just so they wouldn't feel alone. And Emily said something that people never forgot. Success isn't measured by money, she said. It's measured by kindness. But the truth was, Emily had changed too. She started taking time off from work. She visited Lily's place often. She laughed more. She listened more. And every now and then, she would sit in that same mechanic's garage, drinking soup and talking with Jake and Lily like old friends. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons in life don't come from boardrooms or billion-dollar deals. They come from ordinary people with extraordinary hearts. So if this story touched your heart, remember this. You don't need to be rich to change someone's life. You don't need power, fame, or success. Sometimes all it takes is a small act of kindness. A helping hand. A warm bowl of soup. Or simply sitting beside someone so they don't feel alone. Kindness has a ripple effect. One small act can travel further than you ever imagine. And somewhere out there, someone might be waiting for the kindness only you can give. Thank you for watching this story on your channel name. If you believe the world needs more kindness, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who might need a little hope today. And remember, kindness can change a life. Maybe even your own.